Good evening. I'm Father Alexander. This is St. Peter's Haven, and welcome to our 64th step in our walking tour through the Bible. And we've arrived at Judges chapter 4, the career of Deborah and Barak. Deborah is a prophetess. She sits under a palm tree and she dispenses justice. Anyway, Jabin, king of Canaan, oppresses the Israelites 20 years, and he has 900 iron chariots. So that's a bit like having an army with 900 tanks. Anyway, Deborah, hearing the distress of Israel, calls up Barak and tells him to attack Sisera, who is the commander of King Jabin's army. Barak charges down the mountainside with 10,000 men. Sisera and his 900 chariots are defeated, and Sisera flees away on foot, leaving his chariot behind. It's not quite clear how Barak wins this spectacular victory of foot soldiers, 10,000 against 900 chariots, but he does. Maybe the chariots get stuck in the mud or something like that. Anyway, what happens next is simply superb, and it rivals the mafia-like hit job that we had when Ehud took out the king of Moab. Sisera runs off, and he encounters the wife of Heber the Kenite, who is called Jael. And she's at her tent entrance. She says, "Turn aside to me, my lord. Turn aside to me. Poor man's in distress. Take refuge with me." So she invites him into the tent, and she gives him some milk. She tells him to lie down and go to sleep, and she covers him with a blanket. And he seems quite happy with this. And he says, "Please give me a little water to drink, etc. Stand at the tent door," he says to her. "If anyone comes and questions you, if he asks, 'Is there a man here?' say no." Then the narrator goes on, "But Jael, the wife of Heber, took a tent peg and picked up a mallet. She crept up softly to him and drove the tent peg into his temple right through to the ground. He was lying fast asleep, worn out. And so he died." And now Barak came up in pursuit of Sisera. Jael went out to meet him and said, "Come in, and I will show you the man you are looking for." He went into her tent, and there was Sisera dead, with a tent peg through his temple. Thus God that day humbled Jabin, king of Canaan, before the Israelites, and the Israelites bore down more and more heavily on that king of Canaan, Jabin, until he was utterly destroyed. What a story! Jael, which incidentally is still a popular name among Israeli girls, tempts Sisera into her tent and then nails his head to the ground when he is asleep. And so Sisera is completely defeated by the hand of a woman. And Jael is held up for us as an example of great resourcefulness, great strength, great heroism. It is an amazingly gruesome scene, and yet it's also treated in a comic tone, and thus he died, as well he might have done, having had a tent peg rammed through his temple. Jael is one of the 4 women of the Old Testament who are currently or usually held up to us as great examples and constantly represented in art. And in art, you can see Jael holding a tent peg and a mallet, her chosen weapons in the fight for God against the Canaanites. One wonders what Barak thought when he saw his enemy Sisera dead with his head nailed to the ground. One wonders what Heber the Kenite thought when he got back home that night and Jael said to him, "You'll never guess what I did today, dear." You wonder what Heber the Kenite thought when he got into bed and went to sleep, wondering if he'd ever wake up again. It's a brilliantly dramatic story. It's also a comic masterpiece. Sisera, with his 900 chariots, thought he was really something, but of course he was destined to be defeated in the most unexpected way by the hand of a woman. Chapter 5 then is a very long poem which takes up the whole chapter, which is the song of Deborah and Barak. And the words were, and it's probably one of the oldest pieces of scripture. It's not particularly interesting, it has to be said, but it's been included in the book of Judges at this point, probably because it predates the book of Judges. It was thought worth preserving. Most blessed of women be Jael, verse 24, the wife of Heber the Kenite. Of tent-dwelling women, may she be the most blessed. Now, of course, in those days, the Israelites were nomads who lived in tents. And it was the job of the women to erect a tent, and therefore they knew how to nail in tent pegs. But of course, that was a skill they learnt for putting up tent pegs, putting up tents. What a wonderful way of redeploying that skill in defense of God's people. He asked for water, she gave him milk. She offered him curds in a lordly dish. She reached her hand out to seize the peg, her right hand to seize the workman's mallet. She hammered Sisera, she crushed his head. She pierced his temple and shattered it. Between her feet he crumpled, he fell, he lay. At her feet he crumpled, he fell. Where he crumpled, there he fell, destroyed. So this is the original story, probably in heroic verse. At the window she leans and watches Sisera's mother through the lattice. Why is his chariot so long coming? Why so delayed the hoofbeats from his chariot? It's rather good, isn't it? Anyway, I'll leave you to read that. What fun we're having in the book of Judges. I have to say that Jael is one of my favourite characters in the Old Testament. Incidentally, I once discussed this passage with a group of parishioners, and they were astonished. They said, surely that's not in the Bible. Surely not. It didn't seem to them some sort of thing that you could actually read about in our holy book. But you can. All the best. Have fun.